Thanks to Lifen for sponsoring this video.
Everyone's getting Apple Intelligence, except maybe you.
Welcome to the All Future podcast, where we talk all things Apple, tech, AI, various topics like that throughout the week. We usually put up about 4 videos a week, so if you're enjoying these, we really appreciate you watching, and we're hopefully doing something a little different, having more nuanced discussions about what these things actually mean, these technologies, and what they're going to mean for the future of, I guess, civilization as a whole, because
all living things, I guess.
Basically. And this week we're talking about, or this episode, we're talking about Apple Intelligence and all of the features that they have promised and all the ways that some of these features might actually be banned, which is something we haven't really considered. That these features are, one, going to have a staggered rollout, so they're not going to be available right at launch like we think. 2, they're going to get better over time, so they might not be amazing up front. And then 3, they're not going to be legal in all markets because laws have to be adapted, and there's certain regulations in certain markets that make them not available. So first up, we have just some of the teasers of what these features are bringing. And the first one is multimodal item detection. And this is the kind of thing where you point your phone at something and it understands it and can help you. I think the classic example is like repairing something. If you're wiring something, you can point your phone at it. It will tell you what needs to go where and will understand what's going on. And this is kind of something Rabbit has shown us with the R1. And basically, this is exactly what we've talked about, is that this could be an app with those features, and now we're seeing that actually being demonstrated with Apple's AI. What are your thoughts on this type of feature?
Yeah, cool. Gotta have this, man. I'm a multimodal guy, man. I'm a constant. That's what really I think unlocked the usefulness of GPT for me was the multimodal stuff. Because it's fun. Well, answering questions and stuff that's cool and all. But once you realize that, this thing can understand your environment and help you with it, and it's not just. Well, the demos are always super lame. Like, I see people do demos. They're like, I took a picture of a plant and it told me what it is. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess that's fine, right? But where it gets more interesting is when you can, like you're talking about like the repair kind of thing. Just being able to identify and know things. It's so crazy. I was this is a weird use case, probably hyper specific. Not a lot of people do this, probably.
A lot of your use cases are hyper specific.
Exactly. I'm like, doesn't everyone do this weird thing? So multimodal this week with a GPT. My mom is in the process of making nicer digital copies of all my family's old letters in our family's home. My family has lived in the same home since 1813, so there's a lot of damn letters in this house. So we have got the letters, and the letters go back further than that, right? So we have letters that are very old. They're impossible to read because they're written in English, but in like that Spencerian script. So it's all like, I can't read this stuff at all. My mom can read it, I can't. GPT reads it no problem, which is cool. So you can throw in these old letters, and even we have some that we're from Louisiana, so we have some written in French. It reads it and translates it. I'm like, this is cool. Like, this is a great multimodal thing. So that's why I feel like when people do demos of multimodal, they don't push it enough. Like, there's like, great, you tell me that was a cirrus cloud in the sky. Like, that's pretty lame. Like, like actually show me something practical with it. And so I love this being built in at the OS level. Obviously, the apps can do it now, like you mentioned. But I also want to do more with that stuff, right? When I get that translation come through, I want to go, okay, cool. Now save that to the folder with the family history letters and also send a copy to my sister. And it goes, all right, cool. And the only way I do that is building it in at the OS.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Another example we see is like a digital tour guide type of thing. So you're looking around whatever city you're in, and it's telling you different objects or different sites, I guess, and then telling you the significance. You can tap on it, all of that stuff.
I got a new thing for you.
Yeah.
Time traveling with it. I call it time traveling, not really, right? But like if I'm at a place, I'm like, I'll take a picture. I was in like the historic core downtown this weekend, not far from where I live. I walked over there. I was taking pictures of stuff and like just testing it out and would know where I was. And I was like, hey, can you tell me something historically significant that happened around here? And he goes, okay, cool. Here's all this stuff, right? And I was like, what this building used to be. Oh, here's all this kind of stuff. And yeah, like when you start pushing the multimodal thing, you get some really cool things out of it.
Yeah, that seems really awesome. I think still there's the phone barrier, which brings up the discussion of like a future version with glasses and all that
glasses
stuff.
Have been way cooler, yeah.
But that's another video. One thing I think that could be really cool if pushed and done well is like a calorie counter, because right now you can do this already with apps like MyFitnessPal. You can kind of just take a picture of your food and it will guesstimate what's on it and how many calories it is. But if you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to calorie count or just trying to do whatever specific thing that requires that, maybe it gets to the point in the future where you're wearing glasses or something. It's a thing that's aware and it's seeing everything you're consuming and counting it automatically for you, because that's one of the biggest things is you like subconsciously lying to yourself, like, oh, it's just a little snack, I'm not going to track this.
No. So many people go, oh, they'll get the ones that you scan the barcode or whatever, and it's like, all right, I had one serving of this, and you look at the serving size, it's like, oh my god, I had 17 servings of this. One serving of Oreo is a half an Oreo. What the hell? I like anything that takes the user input work. Start stuff out of it. That's one of the reasons I love AI. Like, take the drudgery of computing and data management away from me, man. Like, just watch what I'm doing, figure it out.
Yeah. So with Siri 2.0, we haven't seen too many demos. We've really just seen what's at WWDC, and I don't think it's out yet. The new Siri has not been actually enabled through the iOS 18 beta, but there's a demo of what this could look like on TikTok. I don't think it's real, but it still kind of looks cool and just shows you how quick it can get in the future. And so he asks a little more detailed questions, like, I think, text my mom this, and set an alarm, pretty basic. Another one like, what time is my flight today? And it's just that kind of context that it understands, and then it shows you a result very quickly. And whether this is real or not, I think it's a really good demo of what these features will be when they're coming for Apple Intelligence, and then probably in future iterations. What did you think about this demo?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's fake. Yeah, that's definitely just a video thing playing on the phone. It's making it good. But I think it probably is pretty close to how it's actually going to be working, right? I love how much they are, in theory, according to what Apple's saying, how much they are doing on device, so how quickly it can do those sorts of things. So, yeah, this seems like, then the stuff they do in this demo, like, if you're going to fake a demo, have it do something cooler. Like, this is like the most like entry. This is just above what Siri can do now, So I'm like, Siri can already compose a text message for me. I just got to open the message. Like, it's already will do all this stuff. So yeah, it seems cool. But pretty rudimentary. And I imagine we're going to see much more impressive uses of it and complex uses of it as we get closer to release.
Yeah, and then once people actually have it in their hands, late 2024 is the release date for the features to come initially, but there's going to be a staggered rollout. 2025 is probably where the more impressive stuff and ChatGPT integration comes along.
Guys, you know what we do on the channel? We talk a lot about how advances in tech can integrate into our lives to make just our daily lives a little bit better. And here's a great example of this from today's sponsor, Lifen, with the Lifen Wave. The Lifen Wave has 60 degrees of oscillation and vibration combined. That's exactly what dentists recommend for the perfect clean.
And it gives it a 3 times higher cleaning efficiency. This also has a proprietary servo motor that just allows it to give you consistent brushing power.
To win to an accuracy of 0.1 degrees.
And it's not only going to be stronger, but it's actually gentler on your gums because it has very soft bristles. One of the big things with this toothbrush is that it fixes things that competitors don't typically do super well. So it cleans your teeth deeply while also protecting your gums, and the motors here are powerful enough when encountering resistance, which usually isn't the case.
This was an incredible unboxing experience.
It really was.
I really enjoyed it. It was really well built, really well thought out, and affordable brush heads, man, so you can keep using this time after time and get that clean that you're looking for.
To check out the Lifen Wave for yourself, click the link in the description below. And another feature we're seeing fully demoed this week is iPhone mirroring and SharePlay, or screenplay. So the iPhone mirroring is the thing that they demoed, where you can just have your phone away from you, and then you can suddenly mirror it to your MacBook or whatever device you need. Because there's certain apps that you can't run on the Mac, and it's actually maybe better on the phone. And so that's a pretty cool thing, and we're actually seeing the demos of that this week. Do you think you'll use that feature?
Probably. Maybe not a lot, but there's different times where my phone is in another room or just on the charger or something. It's not necessarily on me that I would like to interact with it. I'll tell you, the classic example is that I get like a notification on my watch and like someone has sent me something that can't be opened on the watch.
Yeah.
So I gotta like get the app. So, but I see there's already kind of I mean, everything you can do on your phone, there's at least for the baseline apps, there's equivalents on the Mac. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
the messaging services and all that. You can get everything on the Mac. So
Yeah.
there's like certain use cases where this makes a lot of sense. This is like a neat convenience thing for me that I think like is seems like when I need it, I'm gonna be happy it's there. But otherwise, I'm not really gonna be thinking about it.
Yeah. So even this feature, which seems like a pretty basic one and not like something that would be illegal, is among the
Oh, it's
features
illegal, buddy.
that might not be coming to the EU. And this is because of the DMA, the Digital Markets Act. So, do you have a kind of a rundown on this?
Sure. So, Digital Markets Act just went into effect recently in the European Union, and most famously, the reason that Apple has to have third-party app stores available in the European Union, unlike in other markets. So, and the intent behind the law is really to prevent user lock into devices by building an ecosystem that people are so reliant on that they can't go other places or can't move on to something else. So it's an anti-monopoly law, which I'm for that. Like in theory, that sounds great. I think the problem is though, like we're seeing it across the board. We've talked about this with copyright laws and everything else. None of this stuff was initially intended with thinking about AI and where these types of products that are going to be available. So here's how the argument would work. Speaking of the phone mirroring thing, right? Is that if Apple only allows phone mirroring of their phones to Macs, then that means Mac users that have Android phones would be at a disadvantage and more likely to buy an iPhone, thereby locking them into the Apple ecosystem. That's a theory. I think in practice, most people would say, oh, well, yeah, I just want all my stuff to work well together. That's Apple's biggest selling point for the last 20 years, really, has been, hey, our stuff works great together, right? It's
Yeah.
so much better together. Since the iPod, original iPod lineup, famously, they made iTunes for Windows so it could work on there. Steve Jobs had the quote, it's like we're giving a glass of ice water to a person in hell by giving the nice software to use on Windows. The idea has always been, though, hey, our stuff's still going to work a lot better if you only use our things. And Apple has leaned into that. And that's one of the things people love about Apple stuff. I think that's one of the things people are going to love about Apple Intelligence, even, is that integration level. That's what we talked about, what these things need. Otherwise, I would just use a standalone app, right?
Yeah.
Like what's going to make it cool is that integration. And it looks like, for now at least, according to kind of the letter of the law or what the regulators' intent will be in the European Union, is they're going to get some pushback against this.
The Apple's official statement, it's pretty broad as to what would not be coming, but they kind of confirmed that their AI services, which includes things like enhanced text and image editing, reworked Siri, and more, would likely not get certain features due to these regulations. And those features, what level of that we don't quite know, but we're already going to see a staggered rollout in the markets where this is coming. And we're already going to see that it's apparently only coming in American English to start. So that automatically eliminates quite a number of markets at launch. And then it seems like they're going to have to figure out what features can we roll out that won't be violating this DMA in the EU. So it's another one of those arguments that kind of leads me to say, if you're really excited about Apple AI, but you're not like the early adopter type person, you might not want to just jump in and buy the new iPhone next year or this year when it comes out. You might want to wait for the 17. It's already going to be better and have all these different things. It's supposed to be a much bigger refresh, and these things will be ironed out. So you'll actually know what features you're going to get on that phone, and you'll know how good they're performing, and it's going to be better and all of those things. But yeah, this is very interesting, and I think something nobody really considered with this is that it's going to be quite different in different markets, especially to start.
Definitely. So I want to tell you that I've adopted telling people your kind of theory here about waiting for the iPhone 17 might be the best move for a lot of people. Because again, you're probably going to spend half the life cycle of the 16 without the full amount of features. And then the 17 is supposed to be that big refresh. So maybe let's see where the dust settles. If you're not looking to spend that $1,000, that $1,000 isn't burning a hole in your pocket. Maybe hold on to it until next year. With this and this is no one who watched the event immediately thought like, oh man, it's going to run afoul of EU regulations.
Yeah.
Here's where I think it's going to be a real thing we're going to start to see in the European markets, right? if like let's say Apple does not roll out full feature set there, right? If that's the route they go, and they're like, oh, it's not going to be here. Eventually, you're going to, because this doesn't just affect Apple; it affects all major tech companies. You're going to start to see pushback from people on this,
Yeah.
and then people are going to say, like, well, why does everyone in North America get this? Why do everyone in the Asian markets get this? And then our little piece of the globe is like forbidden from having these features that seem to be cool and helpful to people.
Hmm.
And the thing with all the lock-in theory, I'm not sure how accurate it even is.
Hmm.
Like, because I think people do like when their devices work well together.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know if that's ultimately the main deciding factor on how to buy things. And I don't know if people who want a Switch really debate it because of the inconvenience. There's so many other things that are more inconvenient about, say switching from iOS to Android or back and forth than the transferring of the data stuff. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, like getting used to where the menu is more annoying than downloading WhatsApp instead of iMessenger or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's like so. At the same time, something we've talked about here is that lock-in is going to become a bigger deal. So maybe this law is forward-thinking in a lot of ways, because as AI becomes a thing people are used to, and people get used to their AI, the AI that they like. I remember a few years ago when they slightly modified the voice of Siri, and my mom was all like, "Siri sounds weird now." Like, and they really made it sound a little more natural. Like, this is probably 3-4 years ago.
It got better.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't trust this new Siri. Like, just kind of joking. But imagine you do that, but it has a personality, right? Like, and so that AI lock-in, I think, is going to happen. The only question is this a thing that we should be in the hands of the government to regulate, or should we kind of let the free market kind of decide? Answer probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. The thing I'm really curious to see is they've partnered with ChatGPT. They said they're going to allow other services there, but reportedly they're not partnering with Meta purposely. But are we going to get a future version of this from the EU where they're going to have to allow all of them, any and all large language models? And it's like, well, probably if they're having to do third-party app stores, they're probably going to have to allow whatever model they want on there. And how do they regulate that from a privacy standpoint? Maybe their approach right now is good enough to where they're sending it out and you get a prompt, and that's as good as they can do. And they'll probably give you an extra prompt that's like, we don't have control over this particular large language model that you're sending it to, just to warn you every time. But yeah, there's a lot of questions there about how this would go. And yeah, I think you're right. The EU is definitely, they might have some pushback because they're going to see some features. A lot of customers are going to see features coming to other markets that they're just not getting on their phones. And they're going to have the decision of, am I actually giving something up by this? Am I actually being locked in to this thing if I go this direction? Or am I just kind of being held back because I want to buy an iPhone anyway? I like the iPhone anyway. I'm not locked in, but now I'm just not getting features.
Yep, exactly.
One feature that Apple very quietly announced at WWDC is RCS support is coming with iOS 18. So that's already kind of a win for this kind of thing. Apparently the bubbles are not becoming blue. They're still going to be green bubbles, but you're going to be able to text much easier with Android users. And that is a way that Apple has very purposely. And there's even been emails that we've seen from Apple executives where it's like they're kind of purposely guarding iMessage because they know there's a certain amount of a thing about having a blue bubble versus a green bubble. And that's already changing, though. So that's going to be easier. And that's one of those things that they've kind of been forced into, I think, by the EU. And now it's trickling down to affect all markets in a positive way. So you're not going to have to get WhatsApp if you don't want to. You'll be able to text normally and send high-quality videos and everything to your friends. But yeah, do you have any Android friends? Are you excited for RCS? You don't. You probably don't have any.
Android friends.
Yeah.
It's rare for me to get a green bubble. I feel like most people who would most kind of work people I'm talking through Slack or some kind of other messaging service. So it's really just kind of close friends that I know, and I think everybody I have again. Betraying that we live in a bubble for sure, me and you, right? Is that I'd say almost all my friends are on Apple devices. If I get a green bubble, it's because it's some tech YouTuber that I'm friends with, and he's testing some new phone. Like
Yeah.
that happens a lot. It's like, and I'm like, oh, what the heck? And he's like, oh, it's I'm using the Samsung whatever this week for a review or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But you talk about the RCS thing, also the USB-C, another example of like
Mhm.
something they adopted because of the EU. So there's a lot of benefits to what the EU is doing with this.
Yeah.
But I think you can be cynical and say like, oh well, Apple's against this because it may hurt their bottom line. I think Apple also, and they talk about this. Apple has, I think, a real concern. One of their selling points is privacy.
Yeah.
And you could say that maybe that's a cynical selling point, and they only say that so they can sell more phones, and they only do it to sell more phones, whatever. But they still do it,
Yeah.
right? And so the iPhone is more private, more secure, more safe than Android phones in general, right? That's just like a pretty factual statement to say. I don't think anyone would push back against that. And it's because of the walled garden system. It's because Apple's been so locked down with it. And obviously, there's been vulnerabilities on iOS too. It's not like a perfect system, but on the whole, it is safer because of how locked down it is. Apple can also do things that this is where it starts to get weird. And if we're going to talk about who can stand against evil tech, I'm not saying Apple is good tech, but I mean, we talked about in another video like all these like TikTok avatars and whatever, and if we could sort of get real weird with it. TikTok's ability to influence people is probably higher than it should be. They obviously are controlled by a foreign power, not the United States, and certainly not someone who's friendly to the West in general, whether it's EU or wherever. Apple can actually just shut them down if they want to, and we've seen Apple do this. Apple famously shut down Parler after the January 6th riots, and that was like, oh, they just pulled the plug on it, right? So it's so maybe it's a little bit of a benevolent overlords at Apple. Like you said, it's still kind of certainly a dictatorship kind of way of running things,
Yeah.
If you're looking for someone who has the power to do stuff like that, Apple can, right? Like if Apple all of a sudden decides tomorrow, it's like, oh, we think TikTok's addictive and we don't like it, they just pull the plug. And certainly in America, that'd be fine. In EU, they would get slammed with antitrust stuff and anti-monopolistic practices.
Yeah.
So there's kind of both sides to it, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things to consider with this because everything and introducing other large language models and even maybe these AI features not coming just has so many implications across what consumers want, what consumers need, and then, how much are we deciding what privacy levels we need versus what we want. I think we're kind of facing a lot of questions that we have already been there and have already been needing to be considered, but people weren't really aware of that these things were these big of issues and that this much data and privacy is out there. But now we're kind of facing it head on because an AI would know so much about you and things have known that much about you, but now it's like throwing it back in your face to where you understand that it knows that much about you.
Now it can be dangerous, way more dangerous than it could before.
Yeah.
Well, this got dark. Sorry, guys.